Good evening. As I promised this morning, I'm going to go over this problem in which we're going to review all the topics that were covered in Chapter 8 dealing with inventory. So it's a relatively simple exercise, but it's comprehensive that it covers a variety of topics that you should have learned in your principles class and a couple of topics that were introduced in the intermediate class. This problem has 7 parts. We will go through parts 1, 2, we'll review part 3, and part 7 will do A and B. So to start with, we've been given the balances at January 1st, 2021. And this trial balance is already posted over here. I have all the information over here. The information is in the T accounts. And as I do my journal entries, you will see how these get updated. As the T accounts get updated, the trial balance also gets updated. The trial balance will be prepared at the end of the period, but we have this as an ongoing document over here. So with that, let's start with our first transaction. We purchased inventory on account for $330,000. Remember, we are using the perpetual inventory system. So our journal entry is going to be inventory debit and accounts payable credit. And the amount was $330,000. So as you notice over here, the minute I debited inventory, my inventory P account, you saw the 330,000 populate over here, which also then meant that the balance went up to 390,000, and you see that flow through over here. So we're not going to worry about that beyond this. Our debits must equal to credits. So we have accounts payable at 330,000. Again, if you see that number came through over here. Let's focus on the transactions. We sold inventory on account for $570,000 that cost $310,000. So we have 2 journal entries we're going to do over here. It's a transaction on account. So we'll debit accounts receivable and credit sales. The sales transaction is for $570,000. And we need to do a second journal entry to reflect the expensing of the inventory that's sold. So it's cost of goods sold debit and inventory credit. And that amount we've been told is $310,000. Once again, as I do each journal entry, the relevant T accounts are getting updated over here. Moving on, the third one, transaction, we received $540,000 from customers on accounts receivable. So we have cash debited and accounts receivable credited. And how much did we receive? We received $540,000. Oh, I'm going to put an extra 0 for myself. That would be nice, but it's not 5.4 million, it's $540,000. $540,000. So cash debit, accounts receivable credit, 540. Then we are told that we paid freight on inventory that we received. We're using the perpetual inventory system. So in my journal entry, I will debit inventory and I will credit cash because I paid. They said it's paid. So inventory debit, cash credit, and that amount is $24,000. So inventory debit, cash credit, $24,000. So in the perpetual inventory system, every time we have a transaction that affects inventory, the inventory account is going to be debited or credited. In this case, my inventory is, I didn't get more in physical quantity. What's happened is my inventory is more expensive because I paid freight. I paid to bring the inventory to my store. The fifth transaction I'm told is I paid $320,000 to inventory suppliers on account payable of $325,000. The difference of $5,000, I paid $5,000 less, and that's because I got a discount, purchase discount. Okay, so in this case, it's accounts payable debit. I'm giving cash, and it's going to be inventory credit. So the total amount I owed them in this particular invoice was $325, but I paid them only $320. I paid them $320,000 and the balance 5,000 inventory credit. And the reason we are crediting inventory is we are saying my inventory is that much less expensive because I got the discount, I paid on time. The sixth transaction, I paid rent for the current year, $42,000. They told us we need to record it as rent expense. I'm sure we already knew how to do that. Rent expense debit, cash credit, and that's $42,000. $42,000. Okay, now I'm going a little crazy with the zeros here. It's 42, not 420,000. That'll be a very expensive space. Okay, and then I paid salaries for the current year, 150,000. And again, they have told me I need to debit salaries expense debit, and cash credit. I paid 150,000 in salaries. Okay, we recorded all of our transactions as they happen. These are all transactions because we dealt with an outside party. This was the only book entry we had over here. Cost of goods sold debit, inventory credit, we are updating our records. That is not a transaction. The first part is a transaction. So transactions, you deal with an outside party. Okay, now that we're done with that, at the end of the year, we've been told that the following adjusting entries have to be made. We have A, B, C, three pieces of adjusting entry, the information we need to do. Okay, so just a quick look over here. I've done my journal entries, everything went into the T accounts. I want to make sure that my trial balance is still in balance. It should be because my debits are equal to credits for every single transaction. If I had left that zeros, the extra zeros over there, the numbers would have been operated with still balance. So don't just take comfort thinking that the totals are equal, total debits equal, total credits. There's just one part of what we need to be looking at. Okay. Now that we have that taken care of, let me scroll down a little. For the adjusting entries, I'm told supplies on hand at the end of the year is $8,000. Supplies, I had 25,000. 8,000 is remaining with me. So my journal entry over here is going to be supplies expense debit to the extent it was used up. I debit supplies expense, and I need to decrease the supplies expense, and that's going to get credited. I'm sorry, I need to decrease supplies. So this is going to be the 25,000 that I had minus the 8,000 that I want at the end of the period. And that's going to be 17,000 as supplies expense. So 17,000. Okay, so here if you see your supplies account, you had 25,000. When you credit supplies 17, you have the desired $8,000 balance. Accrued interest expense on the notes payable for the year. We have to accrue the interest. Notes payable is 5%, $20,000. So the journal entry you're going to have is interest expense debit and interest payable credit. And this is going to be $20,000 times 5%. So $1,000 in interest is accrued. The assumption is I'm doing the 5% for the full year because this note payable was there from the first of the year. It's come over from the previous year. So I had it for the full year. And then finally, we have accrued income tax at the end of December at 18,000. So my journal entry is going to be income tax expense debit, income tax payable credit, and we've been given the amount, and that amount is $18,000. Okay. So once again, all of these got posted into the T accounts, and now you see your updated total is $947,000. Okay. So we have gone through parts 1 and 2. 1 was doing the journal entries for the transactions. 2 was the adjusting entries. And they've told us that to kind of keep an eye on the ledger and the trial balance, and we did that. The 4th is preparing the income statement, and then the 5th is balance sheet. We're going to skip over those. And 6th is preparing closing entries. Now, I'm not going to do the closing entries, but I just want to show you something over here. When I was setting up my T accounts, I organized them where in this first set, I have all my assets. I have my liabilities in the second column. Third column, I have common stock, retained earnings, and sales. The fifth is all expenses. So it's these accounts. I'm just going to put them in a different color just so that you can see these. These are the ones that need to be closed. All your revenues, expenses, and dividends. We don't have any dividends over here, but these are the accounts that would be closed, and they're all close to retained earnings, close to income summary, and then you close it to retained earnings. I'm going to skip that step. Again, the assumption is everything I've talked about over here, the journal entries and the adjusting entries, it's a review of what you had learned in your Principles of Accounting class. So with that said, let's move to part 7. In part 7, they're saying, suppose Displays Incorporated decided to maintain its internal records using FIFO, but to use LIFO for external reporting purposes. So what they're saying over here is this balance that you have, the 99,000, they're saying, let's assume you used FIFO and came up with that 99,000. So that cost of goods sold journal entry that you're done, all of that was based on FIFO. Now they're saying, for financial reporting purposes, we don't want to use FIFO, we want to use LIFO. Okay? So then further they tell you, assume that the ending balance for inventory under LIFO would have been 85,000. Okay, so they're giving you the amount what it should be, it should have been if they'd used LIFO instead. So we're not going to do any calculation, they've just given us those numbers. So I will write over here, ending inventory under FIFO. I'm just going to write FIFO. They've told, I know this number. This number is the 99,000. Now they're telling me they want me to come up with ending inventory using LIFO. And they've told me this number should be 85,000. Okay, so they've given me this number. The 99,000, I came up with that number based on what I saw on the T account here. So the difference between these two numbers is the adjustment we have, the LIFO reserve. That's the LIFO reserve that we have over here. Now, in my books, based on all the journal entries I've done, inventory is 99,000. They're saying when I prepare my balance sheet, they want me to have 85,000. I can't just change a number. That's good in the books. I can't do it. I have to do it by way of a journal entry. So the journal entry I'm going to have is cost of goods sold, debit, and LIFO reserve credit. And that's going to be for this 14,000. For the $14,000. The journal entry cost of goods sold debit, LIFO reserve credit for 14,000. When I do this, I have LIFO reserve, which is a contra account. It's a credit balance. So 99 minus 14 in the balance sheet, I can show my inventory at 85,000. That's the purpose of the LIFO reserve. Now, they say assume in part B, assume Display Incorporated 60,000 beginning balance of inventory comes from the base year with a cost index of 1. The cost index at the end of 2021 is 1.1. They want us to recalculate the inventory using the dollar value LIFO method. Okay, so let's see how to do this. So to start with, ending inventory divided by the price index. This number will give me let's first see what the ending inventory is. This is the 99,000. My price index is 1.1 that was given to me in the problem. This number, 99,000 divided by 1.1 is 90,000. This number is the ending inventory at base year price. Again, as I mentioned in class, what we're doing over here is, wrap this up a little bit. Okay, so what we're saying over here is ending inventory using base year price is only $90,000. Okay, now what's our next step over here? We need to see how many layers we have. Okay, so we have 2 layers. We have the base year. The base year is 60,000. Okay, the base year is 60,000. And let me explain to you where I get that 60,000 from. Look at the inventory over here, 60,000. That's a number over there. Okay, so I had 60,000 over here. If the ending inventory at base year price, at the base year price is $90,000. That obviously means from the current year, I have a new layer of 30,000. Okay, so this is the current year layer. It means these are purchases made in the current year that I did not sell. Now, what's the next step? I take the price index and I have to multiply these numbers by the price index of the relevant year. So for the base year, it is 1. For the current year, it's 1.1. So I'll do the calculation to arrive at the dollar value LIFO. So 60,000 times 1 remains at 60,000. 30,000 times 1.1 will give me 33,000. When I add these two numbers, I get 93,000. So for part B, they asked me to calculate the dollar value LIFO. The dollar value LIFO is 93,000. That's the final answer for part B. So once again, a majority of the information is presented to you. In this chapter, we don't have to do any calculations to figure out anything beyond what we have done. You're just plugging numbers in the correct place. So to start with, again, make sure you are familiar with all the journal entries using the perpetual method as well as the periodic method. Companies, a majority of them use the perpetual method. They may use FIFO or average cost for internal reporting purposes, but for financial reporting purposes, they may choose to switch to LIFO. And therefore, the difference between what they have for internal reporting purposes and external reporting purposes is called the LIFO reserve. And remember the LIFO conformity rule. If they use LIFO for tax purposes, they have to use it for financial reporting purposes. So they don't have the choice of backing out of this. So this is a comprehensive problem reviewing everything in chapter 8. If you have any questions, please make sure you send me an email and be as detailed as possible with your emails. Thank you.